Well, what would you like me to talk about? Anybody? Give me an idea. What?
Why we sometimes feel what we're looking at is separate from ourselves.
But that's actually pretty easy because you have to create a sense of separation in order to look at yourself. Because, it's just, it is in the first place, there is a certain aspect of separation between the apparatus of the persona and the reality of your nature. It is the case that to be alive in the world, whether as a human being or any other creature, I suspect, that we must operate on the basis of the assumption of separation. Like when I talk to you, although I may see clearly that there is nothing between us whatsoever, when I talk to you, we have to talk as if we were separate creatures. There's no other way to do it. So the apparatus of personality has within it this characteristic of a sense of separation from everything but it. Now, the fact is that once that the fear, that layer of fear, exacerbates that sense of separation between you and your persona, you and your life. And it is that exacerbation. It's the exacerbation that produces the whole difficulty that arises from being alienated from your own life. But when you're seeking to bring the apparatus in touch, because that's really what we're doing, or that's the way I see it, the way I think about it, and the way I look at it, and the way I talk about it. What's happening is that we're bringing the principal component of the apparatus of personality in direct contact with the reality that it's seeking to protect and serve. It's like a cop, a drunken cop, right? So that the sense of separation there, and even the exacerbated sense of separation there, is quite useful. It is. It's not a problem. It is a feature, not a bug, in the effort to touch reality with the apparatus that is gone cattywampus on us. But the sense of separation itself, the sense that I'm separate from you and you're separate from me and we're all separate from each other, which appears, of course, within this unity, but the sense of separation itself is a feature. It's not a bug, it's a feature. It serves the only reason that we have come into being, which is to see. And you can't see anything except something which seems to be apart from you. You see. So it's a feature. It's what allows us to partake in the magnificence of this parade of phenomena that is naturally forever upwelling and unfolding and moving on.
It's like a mental construct.
Yeah.
In the same way, like seeing things in a dual fashion.
Yeah, right. And it's not like a negative thing, It is understandable why we have come to think that separation is a negative thing. That's an understandable thing. It's kind of what you would automatically assume. If we didn't feel separate from one another, we wouldn't kill each other and steal from each other and harm each other. But nor would we love each other and help each other and nurture each other. So it's not the sense of separation that creates the problem. It's the madness of the apparatus that seeks to protect you from your own life. That's the problem. And when that goes, then that sense of separation presents no problem whatsoever. It's quite welcome. I mean, really, I can't look at the trees without having a sense of being separate from them, apart from them. Okay? Yeah.
Can you share with us some of the pointers that maybe some of the people that men in your groups have used as their kind of wacky ways to look at themselves?
Well, yeah, mostly I'm going to have a hard time separating the things that people have reported to me from the things that I suggest.
And yours as well.
All right. One thing that, and this is something that quite a few people have found helpful, surprisingly enough. When I first started talking about it, I didn't think that there was much to it. I thought it was pretty idiosyncratic, right? But it turns out that this is something that quite a few people have found helpful. And that is the reason I thought it was kind of idiosyncratic is because it is philosophically kind of insupportable. But that's okay. That doesn't trouble us here, right? If you can recall an event, an actual event from your childhood that in which you were really present to, if you can recall, like for me, and God knows people are probably tired of hearing about this movie, but for me it was when I was 8 years old and went to see, or maybe I was 12, I don't know, and went to see Winchester 73, which is a Jimmy Stewart movie, and actually, although of course I didn't know it at the time, it was quite a radical movie, a radical departure from some of the standards of movie making at the time. But I went in there, I was by myself, and it was the middle of the day, and was completely absorbed in the movie, and came out into the bright sunshine, which completely kind of dissolved the entire illusion. And in that moment, I remember exactly what that felt like. I can recall that to mind. And as it turns out, I also can remember exactly what it felt like to be me. It's an interesting thing, and I've thought about it a lot since. And I think it has something to do with the fact that the personality, the apparatus of personality in memory has no occluding effect on you when it's just a memory, right? Whereas your actual nature is as solid and real as it ever was because it's the same. So people have found that helpful. What else? I'm drawing a blank, although there are a few. Let me sit here for a second. And again, this is what I have recommended, and people report back, right? I noted the fact at one point that Ramana, when he was close to death, and this too people are going to get tired of hearing of who have seen all the tapes, but when he was close to death, he died of cancer. He had a cancerous tumor on his elbow, and they removed the tumor, but it was too late. It metastasized. So he died from cancer that was in his elbow. And when he was close to death, he went for, a medical appointment with the doctors that were treating him. And he came back, and the people said, "Bhagavan, Bhagavan, what do they say? What do they say? Are you going to be all right?" And Ramana said, "Well, they tell me that I am going. But where would I go? I am here." And the reason that caught my attention was because it's one of the many things that Ramana has said that seems so not advanced spirituality. Because it seemed to me that what he was saying was that his persona would persist in that place after the death of the body. And whether that's true or not, which seems absurd to me, but whether that's true or not, I couldn't see some advanced spiritual mind making that assertion. Right? So it troubled me for a long time. Not terribly, but when I turned to make the effort to try to do what Ramana wanted us to do, try to figure out what that was, and try actually to accomplish it, and I did everything that I could even, in which I could even find a hint of a suggestion as to what he was trying to have us do, like grabbing ego by the throat, or following the I thought, or a whole bunch of things like that. And I had, interesting experiences in those things. But finally, I saw that what he was saying was not that that person would persist there after the death of the body, but that was his nature. It's not, I will remain here, I am here. That is another name for me, another designation for my actual nature. And that's why I often ask people, are you here? Because it is actually the case that if you try to see directly with your inner eye what here refers to, it refers to you. And you will, without fail, if you try, you will without fail bring that attention in contact with your actual nature. But I walked around the prison during that time saying, here, 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 trying to evoke some sense of what here felt like. Right? That's another one. I also have had experience with trying to grab ego by the throat. Another really weird thing that Ramana said, and said it with great energy and enthusiasm. Grab ego by the throat. Don't let it go. Hold on to it. Hold it. Hold it. I said, well, okay, I'll give it a try. And I would actually sit on my bunk in the cell when I was alone and close my eyes and focus my attention on anything, any kind of sensation within the body that felt like that infantile, neurotic, stupid ego thing that I knew, of course, didn't exist and was imaginary. But I would try to find something within the body, some sense of something that was selfish and narcissistic and fearful and stupid and infantile. And I would find a sensation that seemed to feel like that, and I would grab it with the beam of my attention. And I would hold it tight with the beam of my attention, and actually in those days I would sit there and say, die, die, die. So that I don't think that's enormously helpful in actually bringing your attention to your actual nature, but it certainly seemed to break a fever for me when I finally, after days of this inane activity, it finally hit me, and I said, well, this thing ain't never gonna die, and laughed and had a great relief. And also, Ramana always claimed that the I thought arose in the right side of the chest, the heart center, the right side of the chest. So I would try to hold my attention there. I never had much luck with that. But you see, with me, as with many people, there was never a moment until much later, much after the craziness began to unravel, there was never a moment when I actually felt like I had done what I was seeking to do, but I wasn't really clear on what it was that I was trying to do, except do something, right? And here's the thing, really. You are here. The thing that seems to me to be the most foolproof, is to recognize and consider the fact that there really is a difference in magnitude, a huge difference in a fundamental and primal difference between your certainty of your existence. And this is really, you really should hear this. You are certain of your own existence in a way you are certain of nothing else. And you can reflect on that and investigate that aspect of what I'm saying clearly by looking internally at the things you know to be true, like the fact that you're a 68-year-old man, for example, or that you're sitting in this room, or that you're married to this person, or that you're in this kind of work or this kind of job, or that you live in this house, or that you work in that place, or that your children are such and such and such and such. Things that seem to carry a great deal of certainty to them. You know, I mean, of course I am a 68-year-old man. How could I not, how could I be more certain of anything than that? Of course I am sitting in this chair. I'm even more certain of that than I am that I am a 68-year-old man. And that I am in this room full of people. I am very certain of that. I live in Ojai. I'm certain of that. Very certain of that. I am a person, a human being. I have this body. I'm really certain. How could I be any more certain of anything but that I occupy this body? Or that it at least appears in me, comes and goes in me, and that it's a body. If I hit it, it hurts. If I stroke it, it feels better. If I scratch it, the itch goes away. What could possibly be any more sure than that? I have this body. Whatever it is, whatever it means, this is me, this is my body. It's not your body, it's my body. If I slap it, you don't feel the slap. I do. But the fact that you are is an order of magnitude greater certainty than the certainty of this body. It is entirely possible, and it's not uncommon for us to be persuaded of things that seem to be so plain and are not the case.
Stephen Hawking's an example.
Stephen Hawking, for example. Or even the Earth being the center of the universe, for example. We have many, many experiences, not just of our own misunderstanding about something and its presence and whether it's true or not true, but also from fiction and novels and movies and television and things like that, where we hear of experiments where people are drugged and caused to have hallucinations, very vivid hallucinations about where they are and what they're doing and who they are and so forth. So all of that is within our conscious apparatus of understanding of what's possible, as far as deluding ourselves as to what's actually the case. We have a vast range of examples of how we could be completely wrong about being in this body. We could be in Gitmo, for God's sake, under some kind of psychotropic drugs, being interrogated. It's possible. You can't rule it out entirely. But the certainty that you are, without regard to what you are, where you are, how you are, or anything else, the certainty of your existence is an order of magnitude greater than your certainty about anything else in life. You see that? You see that. It's a different kind of certainty. It's a different kind of knowing than anything else. The certainty of your existence. The certainty of your existence. Look for that. Where does that come from? What's the cause of that? Why is that so different? What does that feel like? That certainty feels like you, because that certainty is you. So you look there. But remember this, and I certainly would hope that as the years go by, assuming that we continue in this work, I would certainly hope that I would be happy to devise some practical instruction that was as simple as, if you touch your nose, it'll all come out right. Or if you watch your breath in a certain way, it'll all come out right, and you'll get to what you're looking for. I would give a lot to be able to concoct such a thing. I think that it's not possible to do. But here's the thing, you don't really have to do this with great skill. Really. You just have to do it. You just have to try. Look, I am the example for you. I was the stupidest, the most indirect, the least focused or clear on what it was that I was trying to do than anybody I've ever known. And the only thing that saw me through was that I was determined, absolutely determined, not to stop trying until I knew what it was that Ramana wanted us to do. As it happened, I never really got to that, but where I got was where I belonged, which was direct contact with my actual nature. I still don't know what Ramana exactly wanted us to do, but I tried, and the fact that Ramana's instructions always had to do with your actual nature, with who you are, with the irrelevance of the entire show in the question of your own identity. The fact that he always pointed inward, certainly was helpful to me. But I didn't know what I was doing. I made up these things as I went along. I just sat there and tried. So, it's my opinion that anybody who will, and this isn't, don't read this the wrong way. It's not saying there's anything special about me. There is nothing special about me. Nothing. But if you will just try with all your heart to figure out what I am trying to get you to do, and do it, you'll succeed. Really. That's the bottom line of it. That's the bottom line of the methodology, is to try to figure out what it is that I am talking about when I say look at yourself. And I try to, I don't try to withhold anything from anybody. And do it. And keep trying to do it, and keep trying to do it. Whether you succeed or don't succeed, keep trying to do it. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to abandon your other understandings. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to abandon your other beliefs. You don't have to write off anything that you're doing or any spiritual practice that you're participating in, nor do you have to continue them. All you have to do is try to do this one little thing. Look at yourself. Bring the beam of your attention directly inward until it touches your actual nature. That's all you have to do. And you don't even have to know that you've succeeded. You really don't. This is like, well, somebody said once, this is too simple. This can't be true. This is too simple. But if you say, this is too simple, this can't be true, then what you're doing is refusing to try to do it. And since it's so simple, what's so hard about trying to do it? What's to be lost in trying to do it? This is so simple. It can't be true. But it is. It is. And I promise you it is. And there are a lot of people now who equally will stand up and promise you that it is. So try. That's all. Try. Make an effort. In all your other endeavors, you can be as effortless as you want to be. This one just requires effort. So try. Move your attention. You can do that. You can move your attention. You can. Try. Was that at all helpful? Time will tell, huh? Yeah.
In your experiences, there ever times when
Okay.
in your experience, is there ever a time when your nature calls you forth rather than you approaching it?
Is there ever a time when my nature calls me forth rather than me approaching it? My experience is, and is this, my experience is that once that first success is had, you will repeat it. Now, I have said in the past, and I will say it again, because, it's a useful thing to see, that you don't have to plan it. You don't have to not plan it. But you don't have to plan it. You can do it whenever it occurs to you to do so. You don't have to worry about the times you don't do it. They don't count. The only thing that counts is the times when you do it. So you can do it whenever it occurs to you to do so. If you're at the checkout stand, even if you're driving on the freeway, it actually isn't dangerous. It really doesn't cause any kind of distraction like cell phones do. But what I see to be the case is that it is actually a fact that once you succeed, you will continue going back there, regardless of whether you think about it or don't think about it. You will continue going back there, regardless of whether you plan to or don't plan to. In a sense, even regardless whether you know you're doing it or not. You may know it in retrospect. I spoke somewhere, maybe last night in the meeting or somewhere recently, about the fact that, maybe even yesterday here, that in speaking about the things that we find within the ancient wisdom teachings that are so much a part of our consciousness in this realm, that there are many things that appear there that seem to be incomprehensible when read as a way to escape from the trap of life, but that once the trap of life is revealed to be inexistent and fear departs, you see what they really were talking about. And one example of that, and this is a kind of a flowery example, and it's a good one for that purpose, is the whole business about how when you reach for the self will come back and reach for you and pull you in. Well, that's a poetic and romantic expression of what I think is happening when you continue to do this, whether you have success or don't have success. I think that just as with many, many things, what we think we are doing by our intent is actually happening without regard to our intent, once that first movement is made. So it's my sense that it's always the case. It's always the case. We are actually, much of our effort, much of the misery of our lives is spent trying to maintain that separation between life and reality. Much of our misery and much of our pain and suffering is given over to that endeavor, to try to keep me away from this behind me here, try to keep me away. And despite that, attention is drawn back there again and again and again. So I can see why it would be spoken of in those terms. But those are kind of religious and quasi-religious and metaphysical and poetic and so forth ways of speaking about something that to me is just the practical fact of the matter. This apparatus is porous to the presence of reality. And much of its effort is spent trying to close those holes. But never does that happen. So once the effort is made and accomplished the first time, it's not like there's some entity drawing you in, but it's just that the effectiveness of our efforts to stay separate from that fail. That's all. Because of having succeeded once. And the outcome is the finishing of that wall between you and your life. Yes?
Do you think there's a value to looking as often as possible? When I hear the story of what happened to you, you were looking, I don't know if 24/7 is a fair way of putting it.
Pretty
There's
much.
Intensity to that.
Yeah.
And you never prescribed that, but from your experience, is that useful?
Is it useful to do this as often as possible and with as much intensity as possible and to keep it up many times rather than just occasionally? Well, it was useful for me, but this is all idiosyncratic. Ramana, when asked questions like that, would usually respond with the statement, that's all according to the predispositions of the individual. And it's the case with this too. If you find yourself doing this all the time, it's because that's what you have to do. If you find yourself doing this occasionally, it's because that's what you have to do. And it's not, so there's not really an answer that covers everybody, because it is truly according to the predispositions of the individual, or idiosyncratic, as I kind of prefer to say. It seems a little less. Okay? But I wouldn't prevent you. It's like if you find yourself wanting to do this all the time and you're feeling like obsessed with it and so forth, don't worry about it. Keep doing it. It's not going to hurt you. This can't hurt you. It really can't. Helen.
John, I started to talk to other people about this, and the most common experience is it comes out of my mouth and disappears into their ideas of what I've said.
That's my experience too.
And it seems, well, if I'm just having a conversation with a friend, that's inevitable. I spoke up in Isaac Shapiro's satsang, and I told him I was seeing you, and I told him what you said, and he said, oh yes, but that's not what I talk about. I talk about blah, 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 and it disappeared. I told him again to go to the website.
So the question is,
Do I have to say something like, I'm being serious?
so what we're speaking about here is the difficulty in speaking to your acquaintances and the people you hang out with about this, because it is swallowed up in their own ideas of what you're going to be saying. The reason that I do this in the way I do, right? I gather people together in a room and in a context that is given over to considering this that I am offering, not necessarily accepting it, but considering what I'm offering, and a context in which I kind of have the floor, like Reagan, I own the microphone, is precisely because I have never found a way to casually talk to people about this. It seems to me that having a setting, a venue, and it doesn't have to be a room like this, it could be like I have online venues too, but having a venue that is devoted to considering this and this alone is almost essential to get it across. And even then, much of the time, what I say in these meetings is swallowed up in people's ideas of what I'm talking about.
I saw that I did it for ages and ages.
Yeah.
And yet, I can't just turn away from trying to speak about it, either.
No, and you may become more skillful with it as time goes on. You know, that's perfectly possible. The thing is that you cannot by yourself make people hear this. You can't. You can become skillful at saying it. You can become skillful at the way that you express it. You can become confident in your own mind that you're being clear in what you're saying and the directions you're giving. But there's so much distraction that it just disappears into that. And I understand that. Not always. It happens, you know, that people hear it in small groups and friendships and so forth. But I have found that having a venue that's given over to this tends to concentrate the mind. Not entirely, I mean, because it really is true that a lot of people I talk to, it's really plain to me that it goes in and gets, cataloged as being this kind of thing or that kind of thing or another kind of thing, and doesn't get considered. And the defenses against this are actually pretty effective and quick to pop up. But you just do the best you can, you know? And, I wish I knew how to I wish I knew, you know, I am like these bracelets, right? I have no shame whatsoever. I would have T-shirts, I would have bumper stickers, really, vanity plates, baseball caps, you know, anything that would help begin to let this possibility sink in to the consciousness of the people that come in contact with it. So, I don't know how to help you. See, the problem with this is that it isn't a spiritual teaching. So that when you try to talk to people, and most of the people you're going to be talking to are spiritual people, because that's just the case. I tell you, I've spoken before to people who had no spiritual interest whatsoever. And this was years ago, before I really began to clarify what it was that I was trying to say. But they heard me without any trouble at all. I mean, they didn't have any trouble hearing at all. So, go figure.
There are cable TV shows. Some people know how to do it. Some can put you on local TV. If everybody's going to be speaking here, it's going to be a problem because you can't hear it.
Well, we're going to have to deal with that, because I would like this meeting to be...
We can use the mic.
Just repeat the...
You could pass the microphone.
Pass the mic.
Yeah. Once
Yeah.
it's time for this conversation, there's nothing.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you can repeat the question, though.
Yeah, you can pass the microphone. That would be helpful.
Everybody's going to go, but
I think there are, free cable television shows that people can put your talks on cable, and then people just in the community can see them.
I think we do that, actually, to the extent that we can. We used to have here in Ojai, the public, the community cable television. But I don't think that's happening anymore, but we try, and we have done that in the past. But once again, there are 24 hours in a day, right? And it's a zero-sum game. So one thing is for certain, not everything that I want to do is ever going to get done. Not everything, unless, suddenly we come into a bunch of money and get to hire people and get all that straightened out. But the way things are, that's never going to happen, because it's a zero-sum game.
Or if someone who's retired could just work for you or something for free.
Yeah.
Or little bits of us helping with little things. Or
Yeah, but that takes somebody who can coordinate that whole thing and keep keep track of it and so forth, and neither Carla nor I have the time to do that. I mean, it's really true. I have a lot of ideas about how we could really proceed to blitz the communications media in all the realms with this, with ads and bumper stickers and things that pop up and all of that stuff, but there just isn't the time. Just isn't the resources either.
You said something the other day, I don't know if I can quote it exactly, but you said, you are the only thing inside yourself.
Yeah.
Can you expound
You are
on
the
that?
only thing that's inward. It's not, you're not inside yourself. Everything else is inside you. But you are the only thing that's inward. When you turn your attention, it is a common thing in spiritual circles to talk about inwardness, about turning inward. And there's precious little guidance into where inward is to be found, really. We come, at least in my experience, when we start talking about inward, we start to look at emotional things and deep sensations and things that feel like they're in the body inward. But that's all outward. All of that's outward.
That's interesting.
You are the subject. You are the only subject here, which means you are the only thing. The direction inward is toward you. Everything else is outward. Everything is outward.
That was a very interesting clarification. I mean, for right now, I have always thought that the pain I experience,
It was inward, right? That's what I'm saying.
it's just so interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but there's a subject to that pain. That's inward. Okay?
You could talk more on it, and I would still be interested. Were other people interested? Can you say more?
Well, that's another thing and I don't think I've ever talked about this before, because I left it in the graveyard of my spiritual understandings. But that this business of the subject, this business of subject-object, there is object and there is subject. You are the only subject. You are the only subject. So therefore, if you look within, if you look for the subject of any experience, any sensation whatsoever, if you look for the locus of experiencing, you will find you. If you will look to find the place where experience occurs, you will find you. And the experience doesn't occur in the experience. Like the experience right now of a little pain in my knee, the experience of that doesn't occur there in my knee. It occurs at the subject, which is me. So if I can trace back to the absolute subject of any experience whatsoever, I find me. The only thing inward. This is fun, huh? I'm sorry, Carla, I didn't mean to throw you a... But I thought, we'll just try something a little different here for one meeting, and sometimes I think it would be really nice to have something where people could walk up and just talk in the microphone. Sometimes I think what I would really like to do is have a wireless microphone and wander around, right? And but we don't have that, so we'll do this. Teresa?
Well, I just wanted to say that that's always been, when you said that, it was like, oh yeah, that's how I contacted that.
Yeah.
Always like, it's always been about to go to feel back. Well, it's not the only way, but that is a very useful way.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's for some, but not for all. For some, it's a little too intellectual.
That's another way we were talking about. You described 4 other ways. This is a 5th way.
Right, it is, you're right. And it's one I've never mentioned before because it's just a little, it's a little, I don't know exactly the word I'm looking for, but it's not plain enough to suit me. It's a little too philosophical. But maybe not. Maybe I just made that up. I'm not right about everything, I'm no Avatar or Bhagavan or anything. I'm just like you. Except, of course, that I'm not afraid of life.
So is that the same thing as saying to whom did this feeling occur and then kind of looking for that?
Well, I think that's what Ramana was trying to indicate. Yes, but you see the distancing that the to whom provides, right? So now we have 2 things, right? We have actually 3 things. We have the experience, the experiencer, and the whom of the experience, and that which gets a little confusing and a little. I never could make hide nor tail of it. But I think that's exactly what Ramana was pointing to when he said that, the subject.
So then you look to whom that is experiencing that. And that sort of stops the mind and puts you kind of back.
Well, it didn't work for me. That's what I'm saying. And the whom part got in the way. Because it was not possible for me at that time to recognize the fact that it is from me, from my actual nature, that person arises. It wasn't in my capacity to recognize the validity of person at that time. If he had said, "What's the subject?" I might have been able to go for that. But at that time I brushed aside. That was even before, my awareness of his insistence in for whom is this problem, for whom is this pleasure, for whom is this, that, and the other thing. I was aware of that even before I was so shocked to hear him say something that seemed to be implying that there was some personal immortality involved in him, in his state, by saying, "Where would I go? I'm here." And so that was a shortcoming on my part, but I don't think it's that uncommon. I think that to say "you" is much clearer than to abstract it into a kind of an abstract question: for whom is this problem? For whom is this experience? Because what you're looking for is not some person. You're not really looking for a person, but you are looking for that which the personal pronoun refers to. The bottom line of what the personal pronoun refers to, which is not a person. It's you. The person is the apparatus. The person is this whole construct that constitutes your face.
Like, so it's for whom does this occur? To me, and who am I?
Right.
What is me?
Right, but then
Or then behind
then
that,
it's who am I, right?
Right.
What does that mean? And then I went to what am I, and before too long it became apparent to me that whole road was false turning. That there's no what we are not interested in determining who or what I am. That's obvious. I'm here. I'm not absent. I'm not lost. I'm not missing. I'm not hiding. I'm here. What we're after is the direct contact with my nature. Not to determine what my nature is or who my nature is, but just to touch it. And the bypass into what and who is just a false turn. We just need the touch. We don't need the knowledge. The touch is the knowledge. Okay?
So sort of along the lines of personal favorite tricks for contacting this. The one where I'm the use of a memory from childhood I found to be almost a surefire.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
But I don't even have to do that. I find the strongest quality of this thing, this self, to me, is a sense of timelessness. There's no time at all. There's no, Eckhart talks about the power of now. That's too much time right there.
Yeah.
It's, and I can sense it almost directly, directly, without any kind of asking about childhood or anything. I can just
Of course you can.
snap
You're always,
into it.
it's always here.
Yeah, exactly.
Never absent. Never, ever absent.
Never absent. Well, I actually have a question about that. But in terms of in any situation, if I turn my attention that way towards that quality, I can almost always see it, and I kind of snap in and out. But when I turn my mind to trying to do that, I can snap in pretty quickly to feeling it. And the question about it never being absent,
Let's not use an impersonal pronoun. That's
not use it, use me or
Me or
I.
you
Okay.
or...
Yeah, so I seem to be absent in deep sleep.
All that's absent in deep sleep is the apparatus that is kind of the antenna that directs experience toward you. The body is asleep. The body is absent.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is absent.
Mm-hmm.
The daytime consciousness is absent. All the receptors of experience are absent. But you're there. You're there, and you know it. Otherwise, and this is also from Ramana, otherwise, how can you know if I say to you, did you sleep well? You will say yes or no. How can you know that? And also, if it were the case that you were absent during deep sleep, then the experience of sleep would be like a fast cut in a movie. There would be no sense of duration whatsoever. But when you wake in the morning, you have a clear sense that there has been a passage of time during which the body was absent. It's not like a fast cut in a movie. You watch a movie and you can be in Los Angeles now and on the dark side of the moon a half a second later. That's not what sleep is like. It's not like that at all. So the subject remains. It just has nothing to be subject to.
Is your deep sleep now like it was before? Do you have any more sense of yourself in deep sleep than you used to?
I dream a lot less. I don't know. A lot of these questions are really kind of beside the point and imply the fact that there's something special about a human being that's free of fear. There's nothing special about a human being that's free of fear. The body is still a human body. Sleep is still sleep. Thirst is still thirst. Hunger is still hunger, and so forth and so on.
But you know that if there weren't something that seemed to be different about a human being that's free of fear, I wouldn't be doing this.
Well, there may be something that's different about being a human free of fear. I certainly think that's the case, and I wouldn't be doing it if it weren't the case either.
Right.
But it's not some special inhuman characteristic that suddenly appears. It has nothing to do with whether my sleep is the same as it used to be, or whether I am aware of myself during sleep, because my sense is that I am always aware of myself. Always. That there's no difference in sleep. That awareness of my actual nature doesn't translate into a conscious experience, because the apparatus of conscious experience is absent. But so far as I know, there's never a nanosecond that I am not aware of myself, just like you, which is the case with you too. It's not that there's some special thing about me. The only thing about me is that the fear is gone. And that I have noticed what it feels like to be me. So I don't miss it anymore. In the past, I had never noticed that. It's the white paper and the black ink. I had never noticed the white paper. If I notice the white paper when I'm reading a book, if I move my eyes there and notice, oh, look at that. No, that letter wouldn't be there without the white paper. For a very long time while I'm reading that book, I'll be aware of that white paper in a conscious way that I wasn't aware of it before. Well, it's the same with this. Once you notice yourself, consciously notice yourself, which is not required to rid you of fear. It's the outcome of ridding you of fear. But once you get that, but it can happen before that. Once you get that conscious noticing of what it feels like to be you, you'll find that it is the case, just as with the white paper and the printed material on it, that you were always aware of yourself, but you didn't notice it. Just like even before anybody called to your attention the fact that you don't notice the white paper, you were always aware of the white paper. And now you notice it. It's the same with this, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I really like that metaphor. That really is.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a pretty good one. Yeah, it breaks down, but all metaphors break down. Okay? Yeah, Tinka's got the mic. Tinka, you have the floor.
Okay. So there is looking at yourself as a practice, so to say, when you actually look at yourself to get the feel of yourself and touch yourself. And then there is thinking about it or reflecting, which I find myself often doing. Like, okay, I would look at myself every now and then, but then over the course of the day, it just happens spontaneously, maybe because we're here, so it has my attention, that I would it is thinking, but more just being aware that yes, I am here, untouched, and nothing of this matters. Oh, it matters, all that it matters, but I am untouched by it, and I see how it is. And I wonder how much importance, if any, do you give to that? It comes when it comes. I mean, I don't know. I just feel it comes as a happy thought. Not that oh, here I am saved from everything, but I just like it.
Well, you have to see, and I'm sure you do, given your background, you have to see that thought just appears. You know, you don't think it. There's no thinker of thoughts, it just comes. Which means it's an effect of some hidden cause, or conglomeration of causes. Any thought that arises is an effect of some conglomeration of hidden causes that are not accessible to the conscious mind. So if you see that to be the case, then you will see that what is beside the point is reflecting on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing to happen, or whether it has any good effect or any ill effect. No thought form has any good effect or ill effect. Some thought forms feel better than others. Some thought forms feel worse than others. But no thought form has an effect on anything. So it seems to me that it's to be expected that when you embark upon this, that thought forms would arise caused by the underlying activity that's going on. That would feel good, or maybe feel confused, or maybe feel crazy, you know. All kinds of thought forms can come from it. But I don't think they have any significance, and I don't think they have any lasting effect for good or ill.
You see, when you when I paid attention to you first, then what grabbed me was just those exact words. Like you are untouched. There is something that is untouched,
right.
undisturbed, has always been. And, I've known the same thing, maybe, from elsewhere.
Yes.
But it didn't get in the same way as when I heard those words. It was more as opposed to, okay, here is consciousness, whatever that is.
Yeah, who knows what that is.
Right, and then here I am, that I'm to put together this, not person, but this thing that is to be me.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I do that?
Right.
So then when I heard this, it felt like, one can say, oh yeah, it's comforting, like, oh yeah, there is something. But I don't think, it wasn't that. It was
Yes,
more...
I know. I mean, it's very difficult to form any kind of coherent thing to say about what happens.
But
here.
it felt like, yes, I know this. This is true.
Yes.
Then there is that, whatever you think is true just because you think it. But it felt quite strongly like, yes, I know this. And how come I didn't know it? I know this. So that thought or that feeling would come.
See, the difference may be this, Nika, is that in other environments and other venues and environments and domains, we talk of the same thing, perhaps, and we even use the same kind of words, perhaps, but they are abstract, right? They're not personal to you. And here, we're not interested in abstraction. We're only interested in what's personal to you, what's actual to you. And I suspect that that's the difference. And it also, of course, given the fact that these abstractions have such a close resemblance to reality because of they're arising within a community and a domain that seeks truth and reality. They ring true to us, right? That it sometimes is very difficult to hear what I have to say when I start talking in the same vernacular, because it's received, because it is the same vernacular, it's received as something we already understand what it is I'm talking about. But here, less so. I try to get closer to the heart of the matter and stick to the point. So that might be the difference. The lack of abstraction. Hi.
Hi. So I do looking at myself. I don't always know if I'm doing it right, but I do it, and I continue to do it. And my question would be, there are some things that you sound certain about, and other people agree with you a lot on them, and I don't always agree. I just don't experience them that way. And I want to know if I keep doing the looking at myself, does it matter that I don't agree with these things? Is it an indicator that I'm doing it wrong if I don't experience these? Is it just an opportunity to look at my experience of that? 2 examples would be, I don't have the certainty that I am here. You talk about that, and I just go, no, I don't feel that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. And sometimes that other teachers are saying the same things. I don't know about other teachers or other Advaita teachers, but I think I translate from other traditions, and I've disagreed with you on that. Doesn't matter, as long as I look at my experience of that.
It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the looking,
Right.
really. And if you are afflicted with confusion and not right, that'll clear up. If you are right, then any confusion about the accuracy of your opinion will also clear up.
Say that again?
Whether you're right or wrong will become clear.
Okay.
And you won't have
As long
to,
as I keep looking.
as long as you keep looking.
Right. And I can rest, if I feel it uncertainly, I can rest with that as long as I'm not disturbed by that, or even if I am.
Even if you are.
Right.
See, the thing about this that is so unbelievable, really unbelievable, is it's much more unbelievable than anything I've ever come across. The only thing about it that mitigates its lack of believability is its effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But it really, nothing actually matters.
Right.
Nothing stops this from having its effect.
Right.
And I say that because in the course of my attempt to do this, I didn't even know what I was trying to do.
Right.
Much less, understand what it meant or what it, how it fit into anything else. I didn't even know what I was trying to do. So I don't think that anything whatsoever that occurs within the persona has any effect on this at all.
And I think you've said before there really is no doing it wrong.
There is no doing it wrong.
Right.
The doing it wrong is not doing it.
Right.
That's the only way you can do it wrong, is to not do it. And it's possible I think it may be possible to fool yourself for a little bit, but not for long.
What would be the indicators that you're fooling yourself?
It would feel wrong.
In what way?
Well, I don't know. How do things feel wrong? Like,
Yeah.
it would just feel wrong. It just would be, it wouldn't feel right. You wouldn't have this same capacity to confront me in this way and talk directly to me about this matter if you were doing it wrong. Because if you were doing it wrong, you wouldn't be doing it, and you would just,
Would you say that attempting to do it is the same as doing it?
Yes, I would. I would say that the intent is everything. So that therefore the attempt is everything.
Okay.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
It's a sincere attempt is doing it.
Oh, well, once you add sincere.
Well, casual, off-the-shoulder, well, let me see. No, that didn't work. Okay, that's not serious. But what I mean by a serious, not sincere, but a serious attempt is the act itself. Okay?
Thank you.
Anybody else? Over here. Teresa? Well, I should have done this a long time ago. This is a lot easier on me than trying to find a sermon to preach.
John, you said that this all happened when we became self-conscious. I'm curious if you or anyone you know has remembered that literally or seen it. Is it a theory or is it from actual experience that you say that?
It's a theory.
Okay.
It's a theory. It may be from actual experience, but I can't recognize that is the case. It's a theory that it's more than a hypothesis, right? It's a theory and what the difference between a hypothesis and a theory is that a theory can be disproved. And this could be disproved by doing it and failing. And remaining fearful and alienated from your own life. That would disprove this.
That isn't necessarily true.
Huh?
I mean, if you take a medicine, that isn't necessarily true because some medicines cure some people and they don't cure other people. Same medicine, same disease, but it doesn't work all the time.
Okay, maybe a sample of one failure would not disprove it.
That's the way I feel about it, yeah.
It would take some mass, some respectable number of people who tried it and actually tried to do it and failed to rid themselves.
Exactly.
Right. But it is disprovable. It is falsifiable, is what they call it in science. But it's only falsifiable by doing it.
That's like talking about doing this looking.
Yeah.
But in terms of what happened early on.
Right. Well,
That's sort of...
about what happened early on. The reason that I think that if the looking works, if this actually works as I say it does, the only explanation can be what I say the explanation is. I can't think of any other reason why that would happen. And it seems also to be entirely consistent with my experience, and entirely consistent with the experience of the human race, and also entirely consistent with the religious and spiritual expressions that have arisen, especially around such things as original sin. Now that's a concept that is deeply embedded in human culture, that we have done something wrong that nothing can be done about, that is past and gone and nothing can be done about except somehow to redeem ourselves. Now the somehow to redeem ourselves part isn't part of what I'm talking about, but the original sin is clearly a pointer to that same moment of terrorized contraction at the birth of self-consciousness. Yeah. Right, it's original fear. But what do we know? We are, and especially during the time when we were forming these concepts, and these are deeply embedded. They're not superficial, they're deeply embedded. And at the time we were forming these concepts, we were just barely coming out of the phase in which we were looking for solutions in spirits in the woods and the animal spirits and other animistic practices and activities. So it was quite a while back.
John, how many people do you know that have had all fear fall away?
I couldn't tell you. You know, for one thing, like there are many, many people who report to me, I would say hundreds, that report to me that the success in this activity, but I am not in the position to be able to judge one way or the other whether their reports are true or false. You know, it's entirely possible. God knows within the spiritual circle, we have a strong tendency to fake it until we make it, and then never make it. We have a strong inclination to pretend that things are other than they are. I don't think that's happening here, but what do I know? I have many people report success, and their reports are so consistent with what I would expect, and so consistent with my own experience, that I totally believe it. But I can't say there are these many people, or that this is, I can't say anything about that. The bottom line is that for you, if 6 billion people on the planet tried it and succeeded, you still might fail. And if 6 billion people on the planet tried it and failed, you still might succeed. The only thing at stake here is you. Just you. Not what anybody else has done. And not like some consensus as to the validity of this. The consensus of the validity of this, and seeking that consensus of the validity, is just a deflection. The only way you can know the validity of it or invalidity of it is to do it yourself. Okay?
Have you had all fear fall away? Have you had all fear fall away, John?
I have no fear of life. I have fears, if a car comes running down the hill at me, I get scared. I will get scared if I have some terminal illness, that would scare me. There's no question about that. If something happened to Carla, it would scare me. When I sometimes get out of communication with Carla, that's a little bit anxiety producing. But that's all aspects of the organism which are features. They're here and serve a useful purpose. the fear of life serves no useful purpose. And it's not like that at all.
So you had all fear, like, or anxiety about the future fall away.
Huh?
So you've had all fear or anxiety about the future
No, I don't have that.
fall away. It
Yeah,
fell
I don't
away.
have that. Yeah.
Okay. Through this inquiry, it fell away.
It is, I'm convinced that that is the case. See, because that's what I did.
How about yours around interpersonal relationships? Like,
That is often mitigated by hormones and other biochemical processes and is organic in nature and has nothing to do with the underlying fearfulness of life. I mean, it may be neurotic, right, and so forth, but those things can be dealt with in the proper context. It has nothing to do with the fear of life, except for the fact that the fear of life makes it much more likely that neurotic fears will appear and afflict you throughout life.
what is the fear of life then? What do you mean when you say that?
I mean that which keeps you alienated from your own life, that which keeps you on the lookout for everything that comes, that which makes you evaluate every thought form that appears within your consciousness to determine whether it's good or bad, useful, dangerous, or indifferent. Huh?
That's neurotic fear, right?
No. No, that's the fear of life.
See, maybe
The fear that makes you examine everything that comes, everything that appears in your mind, and this is not like, this doesn't have the energy of neurotic fear about, this neurotic business that goes on within the human mind. It's not like that at all. This is this murmur that underlies everything. And this is what makes you watch to see whether you're being neurotic, makes you worry about whether you're neurotic or not neurotic, and what that means, how that's going to affect you in the future. That's the fear. The fear that makes you persuaded that there must be something that you still haven't done, or seen, or understood, or something that is preventing you from receiving life's full promise. Life seems to be full of promise and no delivery. It's that. And it certainly feeds and exacerbates neuroses of all kinds.
Yeah, because they kind of dovetail, right? I mean,
The presence of this fearfulness, this underlying existential angst or malaise, right? The presence of this makes. See, what happens is this apparatus, this apparatus that consists of my past and my present circumstance and my understanding of them and the way that I relate to you and the way that I relate to myself. This whole apparatus is contaminated. It's polluted by this seepage, this upwelling of the fearfulness of life, the certainty that life is dangerous and treacherous and not to be trusted, the certainty that you're trapped here, the certainty that there's something you need to do that you haven't done. That, and like once I say those words, it makes it much different than its actual nature. It's this undercurrent of watchfulness and fearfulness and timidity and holding life away from you so that you keep an eye on it. And that contaminates the whole apparatus. It pollutes the whole apparatus so that the presence of neurotic characteristics and behavioral patterns and responses and habit forms, those things thrive within the polluted atmosphere that's contaminated by the fear of life. And when the fear of life goes, that contamination and pollution tends to drain away from it, and those kind of things just tend to disappear. They're no big thing to them. They just don't show up anymore.
Okay. Just one respect.
How does that relate to the fear that, like, people are always going to let you down?
The same. It's the same thing, just one step further, just promoted into and deflected into something in particular that you can hang it on, right? Like, people are always going to let you down. People can't be trusted, and I better stay away from people. That's just the same thing. That's an identification of what the problem is that fear is keeping you to look out for, right?
Kind of like bracing.
Yeah,
I can feel
yeah,
this
right,
internal
exactly.
bracing.
Yeah,
like I know how this is all going to go down in the end.
yeah. Huh?
I know how it's all going to go down in the end.
Yes,
the
right.
end,
You know how this is
there's
going to
be
end.
disappointment.
And it
In
ain't
the
going
end,
to
they're not
end.
going to show
Ain't
up.
going to end good.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But that's an effect that arises from the ground of this murmuring fear. You know, the Buddha, we're told, again, we don't know for sure that the Buddha said anything, but the Buddha is said to have called suffering dukkha, human suffering, dukkha. And dukkha is a Pali word, I believe, and its meaning, it points to the unsatisfactory nature of a cart whose wheel is off-center. So that a cart with an off-center wheel, with the axis off-center, instead of rolling smoothly, rolls like, kind of like this, right? And that's how the Buddha referred to this that I am calling the fear of life, and which means that it's not a big deal. It's just a constant, endless, like a...
Being out of tune.
Huh?
Being out of tune.
Being out of tune, right, yeah. And that contaminates everything. And what arises from that ground of being out of tune and being off-center is reasons why that feels that way. It feels that way because people can't be trusted. It feels that way because she has cheated me. It feels that way because I can't get the money I need. It feels that way because I am stupid. It feels that, and on and on and on.
It's back to blaming some
It's back to
external,
deflection. Yeah,
right,
deflection.
as
and
opposed
projection.
to just noticing the internal.
As opposed to looking at you.
Okay.
And seeing whether there's any truth to this underlying sense that you're at risk here. That's as opposed to that. There's no need for intermediate steps like looking at the fear or melting into it or anything like that. You just look at you and see whether there's any basis for this. And that clears it up. It's amazing that something so intractable and so much a part of human experience from the very beginning of human experience, and it's spoken of in art, literature, music, religion, spiritual practice, in every regard, in every realm of society, this dissatisfaction is noticed and spoken about. And it's amazing how little it takes to brush it aside. That's what comes as unexpected, and that's what's hard to hear. Because it seems like, it's like, if this is really such a small little thing, if it's really so easy to dispense with, then that means I am really stupid to have put up with it for all this time. Therefore, this must not be true. It's too simple. Can't be so.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that. It seems more like there's this endless getting lost in the movie, and then suddenly there's this awareness that there's a projector, which feels like the place where you look from, as opposed to just watching the movie. Like at the projector is the place where it's all coming from. It's coming from that fear.
The fear is the projector, right?
The fear is the projector, right? And so there's this like forever of been in the movie.
Yeah.
Every character of the movie.
That's right.
Every scenario in the
That's
movie. Blame, judgment, criticism. You know, not like there's not some good times in there too, but pretty much it's all in there.
Pretty
in that
much
realm.
it's all like a Russian novel.
Right. Some excitement, some adventure, some drama. And now there's this place of being kind of at the projector. But still, I felt that blame coming back, even though I saw it so clearly.
But see, you're not at the projector. We don't care about the projector. We make much too big a deal of the projector. We make much too big a deal of this fear. I'm telling you that all you have to do is look at you. You don't have to worry about the projector. You don't have to worry about the mechanics in which all this plays out and causes life to be so weird and unsatisfactory. All you have to do is look at you. The effort to try to fix all those things is what's made us spend all these tens of thousands of years spinning our wheels, suffering and dying. You just look at you. Go straight to the heart of the matter and see whether there's any truth to it. Okay?
Quite a few things came together when you said about the pain in your knee.
Uh-huh.
And when I drove out here in the motorhome from Phoenix, sitting in the chair here on Saturday night, because of a fused disc I get and sitting a long time, I extreme pain in my shoulder. It's like a hot iron into an ice muscle, but it's just not a poke. It stays there for hours.
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, a friend of mine says, you embrace the pain, become part of the pain. And so I've been playing with that the last 6 months that I've had this problem, and I've gotten pretty good at it. And here's what I found out, and it just kind of connects in 3 dimensions. There's 2 words I want to think of in case I forget: manipulator and fear. I'll take this in steps. So in the pain, what I found out is I embraced the pain, and just having such intense pain to where it would want to make me cry in tears, and I really felt it, I was able to become the pain. Literally, talk about an outside experience. You're out of your body, and I think that's what you're talking about when you say you got to look at yourself. You got to come out of your body. I do anyhow. Once I came out of my body and became the pain, what I found is I couldn't give it back to me. I'm either the pain, the giver, or the receiver. And if I'm the pain, the giver, I just can't be both. And now it's a different pain because I'm the pain outside my body. And I can't be the receiver also.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So that's in a sense a feeling, something I could put my hands on. So then my friend Ralph and I were talking the other day, and I was thinking about the times when all my alcoholism and going to AA and being a manipulator, master manipulator, that I was able to look at this in the last few days and say, embrace the manipulator. Almost like I came out with the pain. And I came out and I looked at that facade, that persona, and I became that manipulator. And what I found is I can't project it back onto me. And it falls away. Like the pain, it just falls away. Like you said, poof, it just goes. The pain, I come back into my body, I'm focused. Probably in 10 or 15 minutes, you didn't realize you had your pain in your knee. You weren't focused on it. I'm not, I don't know, I'm just guessing.
Yeah,
I can tell you, is all of a sudden that pain that I've been experiencing for 2-3 hours is gone, and I'm back into my body. Once I entered being a manipulator and I can't project it back on me, poof, I haven't had that manipulation effect to manipulate people now for years. And so I'm thinking the same thing with fear, that once you become the fear, I'm thinking there's a step. You can't just look at I. You got to become what you fear or what you pain. If it's jealousy, you become the jealousy. Once you become the jealousy, you can't project it back onto yourself, and poof, it's gone.
These are, hold the microphone for me. Stay with the microphone. These are interesting and valuable and useful therapeutic techniques. And I am quite aware of their validity and their usefulness. But you are not in your body. Your body is in you. You are not the pain. You are you. And just as it is the case that, like I have hip pain. I have a chronic problem in my right foot that causes pain in my hip here, right? And I have found that if I put DMSO on my hip, it takes the pain away. So I'm very happy to put DMSO on my hip and make the pain go away. And it's quite effective. It's really quite magical, actually, the effect of that on pain. But all of that is happening within this persona, within this character, within this life, and has nothing to do with me. Nothing. If the hip is painful, the hip is painful. If the pain is gone, the pain is gone. At no time did that pain cause me any damage or actual pain at all. At no time. Never. Now, the fearfulness that we speak of, and fearfulness of any kind. You know, when I was first in the joint, as in Lewisburg, which is a federal penitentiary in Pennsylvania, and I ran into a guy who was a Scientologist, a clear of some kind in Scientology, but he was also in the joint. He obviously his clarity didn't keep him out of prison. But this guy was pretty interesting, you know, and at that time I was interested in a lot of things that I no longer have interest in. And we would go out to the yard and would lay on the grass, and he taught me how to dissolve clouds. And you can. I mean, so far as I can tell, you can. If you look at a cloud long enough, it'll disappear. If you look at pain, it'll disappear. If you look at the fearfulness, that not what I'm talking about, the low level, endless fearfulness, but the arising of fear, it'll disappear. All of these things can disappear merely by looking at them. This is a fact. Everybody knows this. Or becoming them, whatever expression you want to use. But I tell you, Len, that you were absolutely untouched by any of it. You gained nothing from the fear leaving, and you lost, with pain leaving, and you lost nothing when the pain was present. You are the subject of it. You are not an actor. You are the subject of it. You are the unmoving, unchanging, unblemished, untouched subject of every experience whatsoever.
Are you talking at the part like I'm the source? Is that where you're coming from? Because I can't put my hands around what you're talking about.
Subject. You are where experience dies, where experience goes to die. You are the final destination of all experience. You are the subject. You are the one you are that which receives all experience whatsoever and gives nothing back. Nothing. That's what you are. Now, the techniques that you speak of are very valuable, and they are valuable to a lot of people. And I would use them myself, except that I have DMSO. Right? But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fearfulness that separates us from our lives, I'm talking about the fearfulness that makes us think that we are in the body. You're not in the body. The body is in you. The pain is in you. The pleasure is in you. The relief from pain is in you. The whole experience of body is in you. You are the only experiencer. The body experiences nothing. It is a
sensor.
Yeah, well, it's inanimate. Almost. It's not exactly inanimate, but it's a dumb, unmoving. It doesn't do anything except be the sensor and the conduit of sensation and experience, which ends up in you. The body ends up in you. The body is a construction of a whole universe of experience and sensation and so forth. The sensation of touching yourself, the sensation of cold or pain or heat or whatever on your skin, the sensation of the heart beating, the sensation of gas in the belly. That whole conglomeration, the sensation of the blood coursing through the veins. That whole conglomeration of sensation is formed as a body in you. And I would advise you to look at you. Not to become you, not become anything. I mean, you can become anything you want to become. And some of those movements are useful and helpful. But prior to that, and during that, and after that, you can look at you. Not for the purpose of healing the fused disc in your neck, not for the purpose of curing the pain here, not for the purpose of doing anything whatsoever except to get the direct contact with your actual nature, which will end any sense of alienation and separation and distance between you and your life.
So could I give that you a different name, like spirit, just to separate it? Is that what
I think that's a deflection. I don't think that's helpful. It is you. It's not a spirit. A spirit is an impersonal. It's a noun. That's impersonal. That has no connection with you.
Can we give it a name? Can we give it source?
No, that doesn't have any connection with you at all. It's you. Why can't you just say me? It's you. It is you. It is you. It's you. You know.
Here's what I can tell you about when I look at myself as a baby and see what's left over. When I remove all those things, what I am is when I look at myself as a baby, the child playing in the sandbox, is what comes through as innocence, love,
you are
and compassion. That's what, if we want to remove the pain, the fear, and everything.
See, those are kind of radiations that you give off. You're not compassion. You're not innocent. You're not any of those things. You are devoid of characteristic other than your subjectivity. That's your only characteristic, is that you are the destination of all experience. You are the place where all experience goes to. That's your only characteristic.
So I'm a vehicle now.
No, you're not even a vehicle. You're less than that. You're something that, and you know, the other thing about this personal pronoun business, right? I was thinking about this earlier today when I was talking about the old Nisargadatta guy. We're going to have to quit here pretty quick. Nisargadatta's book is called I Am That. And that, of course, is a development of the ancient assertion, tat svam asi, that you are, right? Well, the that they're talking about in that you are, and that Nisargadatta is talking about in I am that, is you. And the designation of it as that, which in the original formulation was just like dark energy. We don't know what it is, but that's what you are. That's what you are. That is you. And to apply to it an impersonal noun or an impersonal pronoun is just a deflection. It's just And it's a deflection that is enacted by or made possible by the layer of fearfulness. That's where that deflection comes from. Don't look here. Don't look here. Whatever you do, don't look here. No, I am spirit. Oh, I am source. I am that. You're not any of that. You're you. You're you. You are absolutely and absolutely you. And that's what you want to look at. And if you can look there, everything will clear up. And your ability to, which is really admirable, your ability to dissolve pain, your ability to dissolve neurotic compulsions or whatever, that those abilities will be even more effective. They are not connected with this. They are skillfulness that you have acquired during your life. And your skillfulness in that, as with everything else, once the murkiness that is caused by this underlying murmur of fear is gone, the skillfulness in all of those things will become even greater than it is now. And less, just even greater, cleaner. Okay. Thank you for talking to me.
When I look at myself, you need to stop.
One more.
When you say that we're not in the body, whenever I try to look at myself, I often go back into what feels like the body.
That's okay. That's beside the point. You know, there's no locus for you, really. There's no place in the construct that is this world and this universe and us and them and all of that. There's no place that can be found, right? You can't say, oh, it's here, oh, it's there. Oh, no, it's up here, no, it's here. So it is the case that it is almost inevitable that you will look in the body when you are looking for you. But you can know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the body is actually in you. And even if it's not like a present understanding that you don't need to think about, you can think about it and see that that's the case. That the body really, its existence is within you. It's not you and it. And the fact that you use the body, like the Brahmana used the heart, the heart thing here, the fact that you use the body as an avenue to get to the experience of you is beside the point. It's only a problem if you think that that's in the body. And it's not. It's you. You're here.
This was a really great session. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, I guess I don't have to say anything now. I have exhausted. Thank you all. This has been a wonderful afternoon. This is going to be a new feature of every retreat, one meeting when it's like this. And Carla is going to work with me to find a way to implement this with the least, difficulty as possible. Huh? Okay? This has been great. I love you all. Thank you so much. I'll see some of you tonight, and I'll see the rest of you in the morning. And then we will disperse.